So once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats, because I'm glad to welcome you back to the fourth summit of First Ladies and Gentlemen. And right now we are moving to the final part, the closing part of our summit. And just now, I'm happy to announce our keynote speaker. Please welcome Dr. Francis Fukuyama, a political scientist, philosopher, economist, and professor of Stanford University.
So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, international and Ukrainian experts, and representatives of youth associations that are represented here at this summit. I'm extremely honored to be able to participate in this very important meeting with you. I have 3 children of my own. They're all grown up, but I recently had 3 grandchildren, and so I've been dealing with childhood in a very direct way, and I have a direct appreciation for the challenges that presents to parents, to society, to our broader global community. And it's very good to have an opportunity to speak on this issue. I think that compared to when I grew up, the stresses that children are dealing with today are really quite extraordinary and very different from the ones that I was used to. I think that this is due to many different changes. Here in Ukraine, it's obviously the reality of war, conflict, and violence. And the problem, for example, of the tens of thousands of kidnapped children is one that no country, no society in the world should have to deal with. But that is unfortunately your situation here in Ukraine. But there's other challenges in the world today. We've seen the rise of authoritarian powers that do not have respect for individuals, that do not limit their own powers of government, and therefore everyone in society becomes part of a larger mechanism that is determined by a very small group of rulers. You have the rise of populist parties in established democracies. I'm afraid that my country, the United States, is one of those that is dealing with this issue right now, that is polarizing our society. And by the way, for you in Ukraine, I don't need to tell you that this is something that is very challenging for the support that the United States has been giving Ukraine. And I hope that we make the right decision in November that will keep that support coming. I think that we have a big challenge coming from new technologies. That's probably the one that affects the future of children the most. Now, the particular problem of childhood is that obviously society and families, parents, brothers and sisters need to nurture children, but they also have to teach them independence, because if you don't have autonomous self-directed adults, you're not going to have a successful society. And getting that balance right between being protective and being willing to accept the independence of your children is something, it's a balance that's very hard to achieve. I know that that's a struggle that I lived with in my own family. You also need to nurture children as democratic citizens, not simply as members of families that can deal with, their immediate surroundings, but in a democracy, we all have an obligation of citizenship. We have to be concerned with public issues, we have to participate, and that requires something extra that goes beyond what many families offer. We need an interconnected approach because childhood is affected by many institutions, obviously by the family, by neighborhoods, by schools, and by the larger society and the institutions that ultimately will welcome those children as adults to them. I want to pay special attention to the role of technology because I come from Stanford University. It's in the heart of Silicon Valley, and I have to say that the tech companies that are my neighbors have really created a big problem for children. There's a social psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, at New York University, that's written very convincingly that there was a big increase in teenage suicides, in mental health problems for adolescents that corresponded, that it really began to go up in the year 2013, which happened to be the year that Facebook was established and became very popular among adolescents and young teenagers. And I think the problems that it has created are very obvious to anybody that's raised an adolescent, because at that point you're not an adult, you don't have your own self-confidence, you look around you to see how other people are doing, and this is a perfect technological instrument for creating massive insecurity. And I'm afraid that that's something that it's done as a result of this. Jonathan Haidt is now on a campaign to have cell phones banned from all elementary and high schools in the United States. I actually think this is a good idea, but it indicates the way that the challenges that technology has created are ones that are new to parents and to societies, and we have not yet figured out a good way to deal with this. We obviously need to deal with wars and conflict. Again, this is something that I don't need to explain to Ukrainians, but it can't simply be an end to war. It needs to be an end to war with justice, with principles of sovereignty and respect for international borders held intact, with the dignity of all people respected in the peace that hopefully will follow the war. It requires a commitment to the rule of law, which means an ongoing willingness of rulers to limit their own powers, and that is something that is not easy for many people to do, even in democratic societies. And finally, for the rest of us, it requires a degree of civility. Unfortunately, in the United States, civility is something that we have been very lacking in recent years, and the challenge, I think, for me and for other Americans is to figure out how to get back from the brink of this kind of polarization. And then finally, there's the issue of empowering youth. Now, I have to talk a little bit about my own experience in Ukraine. Over the past decade, my center at Stanford has been running a number of leadership programs, not for children, but for young professionals, people in their, let's say, 30s and 40s, because we felt, beginning in about 2013-14, that Ukraine was going to be the frontline state in a global struggle between dictatorship and democracy. And that's why we invested a lot of time and effort coming here to work with young Ukrainians. And that, I must say, has been one of the most inspiring experiences of my life, because the Ukrainians that I have worked with give me a lot of confidence in the future of this society, in its ability and commitment to sustain a good democracy, and in their simple, initiative, creativity as adult human beings. And that is something I want to congratulate this country in, because you're still dealing with a Soviet legacy in which people were not encouraged to be individuals. They were not encouraged to be creative. They were not encouraged to show initiative. And yet, so many Ukrainians have demonstrated this kind of commitment, especially under these terrible conditions of full-scale war, and I want to congratulate this country for that. So thank you for inviting me to address this audience, and I would say, Slava Ukraini.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fukuyama, for your live affirming speech. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, meanwhile, I cordially invite Ms. Olena Zelenska, the First Lady of Ukraine and the summit founder, for the closing remarks and some important information.
Пані та панове, дякую.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much for this day. Thank you. I am convinced that it's important to discuss the results of the summit because we've decided for ourselves that no summit can be finished without the practical result. And I am convinced that today we have to do exactly the same. At the beginning of our meeting, I said that in the modern world, we don't have the hazard that is not about everyone. If children die somewhere, if they are kidnapped, abducted, tortured, that is a challenge to the entire legal system of child protection, to all the principles and numerous agreements. Unfortunately, many of these international agreements, constructions, which were created with good intentions, they turned out to be not ready to respond to the real tragedies. However, Ukraine has the experience of such response. It is dramatic, painful, but it's there, and it allows to develop effective mechanisms which any country of the world can use. Unfortunately, anyone, any country can face the military threat today. So the result of the summit, of this today's event, is a joint declaration of the summit. This joint declaration agrees the key priorities for the future: protecting children's rights and ensuring a safe future, ensuring the safety of children in the family, school, cyberspace, and in armed conflicts for the international community, including Ukraine. It's important to focus on implementing projects in the following areas: search and return of children, medical care and child rehabilitation, provision of comprehensive psychological and social support to children, evacuation of minors from war zones, and ensuring the right of every child to grow up in a family. That's exactly what is said in the declaration of the fourth summit of First Ladies and Gentlemen. This is an important joint agreement to prioritize children's policy at all the levels, both nationally and by combining efforts in the international arena. But it shouldn't just be a declarative document. That's why the second outcome of the summit will be the commitment that Ukraine takes to develop an expert document. In this expert document, it will contain our experience and effective mechanisms for responding to military challenges that any country of the world can use. This document will be presented at a separate event of the summit at the UN General Assembly, which will happen in September, where representatives of key international organizations, diplomatic and political circles will be there. In fact, adults whose duty is to take care of the safety and rights of every child in the world. I'd like at this summit to inspire the whole world to make the right decisions to protect the lives and development of children, because their child well-being ensures a sustainable future for the entire world. Dear friends, experts, colleagues, thank you. Once again, thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next summit.
Thank you so much. We thank First Lady and invite all countries participating in our summit, as well as those who were unable to be here in person in Kyiv, of course, to sign this declaration, which we believe will be a valuable contribution from Ukraine to the issue of child safety and protection during armed conflicts. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of announcing our event's honored speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you indeed.
Шановні
Dear
перші леді,
First Ladies, First Gentlemen, dear attendees,
та панове,
ladies and gentlemen,
передусім я дякую усім вам.
first I'd like to thank the First Lady of Ukraine, all the participants and guests on this summit for this fruitful day,
Надважливий
for this super important event, for coming out to Ukraine
ці часи.
in these challenging times.
Ці часи разом.
I thank you for us to go through this time together. Now and in previous years,
Це потрібний майдан.
This global platform has proven itself as an important one to hear voices from around the world. This is an efficient platform where important decisions are made and implemented in real life, making life even better and this world more just one. Thanks to your proactive position, your dialogue, your initiatives, these days you're acting as ambassadors of the light side of history, promoters of humane values, ambassadors of life, and I congratulate you with this already fourth summit. Congratulations. In spite of the war, all the challenges, threats and complications, Ukraine has again gathered first ladies and gentlemen from around the world. This is really important, not to hide from challenges, not draw your eyes away. Be open when talking to threats, openly speaking about problems, look for answers, find them, focus your attention on Ukraine, which is important, and not letting the world forget that not only Ukraine, but also values and freedoms of the world are under threat today. The topic of today is extremely important. It's about children's safety. I think it is hard to find two better opposites, as children and war. There are those who opted for the first, the war. These can be called aggressors, dictators. They opted for ruin instead of development. They are ruthless in their violations of children's rights. Instead of protecting them, caring for them as future generations. This is the most painful aspect of this war, like any other war as well. Children are those most vulnerable victims of any war. This is not just words, this is a fact. Our hearts ache with it. I myself am scared about it. You can rebuild a destroyed house, you can restore your economy, you can recover your infrastructure, you can mine clear all the territories peppered with enemy's mines, but you won't be ever able to bring back the stolen childhood or compensate for those emotions, the safety and the calm that those children lost. I was told a story days ago about a talk our servicemen had on the front line. One experienced warrior, defender of Ukraine, he has been fighting since 2014, from the beginning of occupation. So he commended his brother-in-arms for being courageous, and then he expressed, he said, it's a pity I didn't meet you before. Your qualities would be very important for me back in 2015. Where were you that time? And the guys answered, I was a 10th grader. This is a story, well, this is a tragedy actually, a reality. And I think there are many more stories like that circulating here on the front line in real life, unfortunately, because of the war brought by Putin here. Children yesterday, warriors today, when they're defending the motherland, when they give their life, some go to school, some go to university, some are being left without their life, their youth, part of their life. It happens when the evil is not put in the place it belongs to. This is what happens when the world spends years thinking about red lines not to be crossed, thinking about diplomatic channels to deal with someone who goes completely in an undiplomatic way, raising everything to the ground, annexing lands,
І буде робити це надалі.
launching wars when it pleases him. He will continue doing that until the world remains asleep, until the world stops allowing him doing this, until the world tries to put a brave face, strongly believing
Якимось
in
неонацистам.
some narratives that Putin is fighting Nazism in Ukraine. What kind of Nazism it is about? You know that this day in Kiev, they've been bidding farewell, last honors to one of our fallen servicemen,
України може
the son of Moshe Asman, the chief rabbi of Ukraine. What kind of Nazism this is about? I'd like to express my deepest condolences to the father of the soldier, to everyone who lost his next of skin in this war. This war has touched practically every one of us in Ukraine, probably also in Europe. All of us, our men, women, and primarily our children. 10 days ago, Ukraine commemorated the so-called Knowledge Day, when they normally welcome a new academic year. That was another yet year when the war has brought completely and entirely different knowledge to our children. You know, going to your first grade under air raid alert and start your learning at school with some short, fast routes to nearby shelter, or having to adapt to realities of studies in another country, not in Ukraine. Some of those kids are not able to see their parents. Some will never see them ever. This tragedy is going for almost 3 years. Those who were born after the 24th of February 2022, they are already toddlers, knowing how to talk, well, babble, how to walk. They already know such words as raid alert, missile, shelling, strike, danger.
дитячі випробування. І тому сьогодні
Not
наші
quite
діти
suitable for kids.
абсолютно не дитячі, дорослі запитання.
And it is because of that our kids would pepper you with quite adult questions. What is coming onto our city? Was it a missile or cruise missile? When my dad will come back home? Well, the God never punishes Putin. And the most
Питання від кожної дитини в Україні.
complex question, when will this war end? These are the questions you can hear from every children here. This is a question to all of us, adults of the world. These are the questions that require a very discreet, open answers. We have to be frank and open with us ourselves. It's all too easy to put the blame on the Russian missile coming at our school. This is a fact, and yes, it goes. But recognizing the fact that this missile will be having components from the United States, Asia, Europe, from around the world, not sure if it will be translated correctly, but
Тобто диявол у деталях.
the devil is in detail, and really detail when it comes to component, the devil is there, in every sense of it.
Як це можливо?
How it can even be possible, why it can be possible, it's a challenge to understand that, and it's even more challenging to correct this. It's increasingly complex to stop it. But really, is it so hard to resolve the matter? The summit uniting our friends and allies is a proof that the safety of our children is about every one of us. It must unite us. And it does unite everyone, regardless of political levels, national leaders, first ladies and gentlemen, international organizations, those who are courageous, brave, proactively working, the adults ready to overcome not so children-like challenges. Ukraine also wants to resolve these matters. Ukraine knows solutions to them. Ukraine is offering its variants of solutions. We are offering our peace formula with all those responses in there, leading to a just ending of this war. This is how it should end. Those who have encroached our children, their safety, will have to respond to what they did. And it won't be possible to repeat it any time in the future, because the children across the world deserve a happy future. They should not be separated from their families. They should never face this horrible war unleashed by Russia. The world should never see another photo of child's room ruined by a shell or a crying child after the missile strike, with all those gruesome details. This war, as other wars, will have to go down in the past. Ukraine is powerful enough. Ukraine is uniting this world. Together with the world, we must attain that. I'd like to thank you again for coordinating the summit, for participating in it, for coming out here to participate, for standing this fight together with us. Again, together we must do it. Glory to Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for joining us. Thank you so much, Mrs. Olena Zelenska, for gathering us here. Thank you to all the first ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests who gathered here in Kyiv today. Thank you so much. It's really priceless. Once again, I'd like to I'm extremely grateful to our general partners, UNICEF, USAID, and Universal Bank, whose generous support made it possible for this summit to take place. Today it has been an extraordinary and impactful day, filled with meaningful insights and important discussions. Thank you for being with us and for your commitment to exploring every dimension of children's safety. More to come, and of course, we are looking forward to meet you all again just in a year here in the same place. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini! And one more important moment, dear friends, on your badges you can find a QR code. Just in an hour or two you'll find there all the official photos from our official photographers. So then feel free to share this on a social media. Thank you so much!